Yeah, absolutely. So there's been quite a few questions come in, so we'll try to just answer a couple quick ones, and I think Chayton here is on the line as well, so you may be able to jump in as well. All right, so um, first question, somebody asked where that turn penalty file is. So I don't know, Chayton, if you want to jump in, or Levi, in regards to the turn penalties.
We're going to talk about model inputs after the break, specifically talking about how to enter turn penalties. But as a quick look, it'll be at the turn list level. There's a few different places that you can input turn penalties, either at the individual turn level, so you can edit specific turns, or you can come into the list here, and then we have a turn penalty here, T0 PRT, and you can enter in specific turn penalties there. We also have different turn types, so depending on the turn type that it is, and then in the procedure sequence, you can automatically update the turn penalty based on turn type and things like that. So that's where you'll
So,
find it, though. It's a T0 PRT is the turn penalty. It'll be in the list.
and if you want to jump into that, those list filters, there is a turn penalty specific one that you can drop in there that will show in the listings, not the GPAs. So that will bring up and be able to show you those turn penalties. All right. Next question, comparing the volume between two different versions, you can only do similar links, which are links that have not been split, and yes, that's correct. So it would have to be the same link. And then the follow-up question to that is, between the 2015 and 2045 models, do the link or zone IDs change? So most of the network IDs are the same between 2015 and 2045, except for those obviously that don't exist in the 2015 base network. So this is a structure that will be, maintained on a rolling basis, by FDOT and their consultants. But for now, anything that exists both in 2015 and 2045, those link and node IDs, all that stuff should be the same. Another question, can you open two graphic parameter files at the same time?
That is a good question. I believe you can have multiple network editors open at the same time. Chayton, do you know if we can have multiple graphic parameter settings open at the same time on the same file? He says no.
So yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not, you can't have multiple GPAs at the same time, but what you can do is if you drag and drop a GPA file over Visum, it lets you pick which graphic parameters you want to apply to what objects. So if you, for example, have two GPAs and they have node, one has a node GPA and the other one has a link GPA, you can drag them onto Visum one after the other and selectively pick elements that you want to apply from a GPA file. So that lets you consolidate graphics for multiple layers or multiple files into one graphic view in that sense.
Perfect. One other question here. Will you begin going over major differences between Cube and Visum and how they handle things like the link-based volume delay function?
Not really huge amount of detail to talk about here, except that in Visum we can use both node and turn delay functions. So volume dependent turn and node delays can be modeled in Visum using volume delay functions. In this particular model, we've kept the settings basically the same as the original model that we converted from, which is using a biconjugate Frank-Wolf assignment and using a similar gap criteria, gap or relative gap criteria. and then using essentially link delay functions combined with fixed turn penalties. But outside of that, there isn't really any other detail that we would be discussing in this training, at least. But it's the same sort of assignment that we adopt here, Frank, by conjugate Frank Wolf.
Okay, thank you. One other question I just saw come in that should be pretty easy. Can you run the model without transit? And since you're right there, you could deselect that transit assignment if you didn't need to run that, correct?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You just uncheck all procedures. And then once you've done that, you can just pick which groups of assignments you can run. So for example, if you only wanted to run AM, you could do that. And then the transit is the last one right there, group assignment. So as long as you don't have this checked, you can leave transit as is, and you can just run AM or all of these together, and then add up time of daily flows right there. So if you, again, you can pick and choose what you want to run, depending on what kind of edits you're doing to the network for sure.
Another quick one that came. Oh, go ahead.
The only thing to note here is that transit skimming is used in the mode choice procedure. So if transit skimming is skipped, then the mode choice calculation won't necessarily make sense. But here at the end, what we are doing in that step is assigning transit network flows. So you may or may not assign network flows, but if you want the mode choice to make sense, you should still run the transit skimming, which feeds into the mode choice step.
Perfect. One just other real quick one here. Someone asked if they can extract a sub area. Yes, you absolutely can. Are we going to be covering that today or tomorrow, Levi?
I didn't have a created example file for it, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You just select a section of the network that you want to activate, and then you go to calculate. So I did an area selection using this spatial selection mode. You can pick which area you want to grab, so maybe downtown Tampa, for example. And then you go calculate subnetwork generator, and then it'll do all the cuts, and you just pick what type of demand matrices you want, and it'll generate that and create a new version file. I just have to save a location, sub area cut, and hit save. And then you just pick how do you want to treat those line routes, the public transit lines, do you want to cut them, and so on and so forth. And then do you want to include the model network, or do you want to rerun it afterwards? And then you just click OK, and it will cut it out and create a new version file for you. So it's actually pretty quick to do. And if you want to pre-run the assignment and then cut it out and then take the assignment with it, you can do that as well.
Yeah, one note on that with the cordon zone creation is that the way we have set up this model right now, because it runs multiple times a day, we don't store the path flows for the traffic assignments. So if you want the cordon matrix to be extracted along with the sub area generation, you'd have to basically turn on the path flow storage switch and then run the assignment for that specific time period, and then run through the same sub area attraction, and you'll see a couple of more demand segments over there for SOV trucks and HOVs that you can export the cordon matrices for as well for the sub area.